We all want work-life balance. We want to be less stressed and more happy. We want to enjoy our work, enjoy our life, and be well. But how do we get this? How many hours a day do you typically work? If you were alive and working in Britain during the 18th century, it's likely you were working 10 to 16 hours a day in a noisy, dangerous factory. In the UK, this started to change in the mid-1800s when the short time movement, or the 8-hour day movement, led by Robert Owen, started to have an impact. The goal was to have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of play. In Australia, workers started to gain the 8-hour day in the mid-1850s, but it wasn't really until about the 1920s that this became law in most states. Nowadays, in Australia, when we have a public holiday for Labor Day, that is to celebrate the 8-hour working day. And you might even see the numbers 888 added to an old trades hall, like this one in Fremantle. It's not quite 666, the devil's number, but for some anti-union crusaders, it might be. That all sounds pretty good, but that was 100 years ago. So what's gone wrong since that we're now suffering with work-life balance? You know, you'd think we'd have it all. We've got better houses, we've got better jobs, we've got cushier jobs, we've got better food, we've got faster cars. What more could we want? Contrary to popular opinion, work-life balance is not about longer working hours. By most stats, working hours in most Western countries have fallen since the 1990s. In Australia, the average working week across all workers is now 31.6 hours. As an average, naturally some are doing more and many are also doing less. Given we are typically working less, what went wrong? Why are we more stressed by our work than ever before? I think my mum has the right question. That's my mum. Oops, sorry about the mustache. Ah, that's better. Every year at Christmas, I'd go home to visit my mum, and she would ask me exactly the same question. Did you get all your work done? And my answer is usually the same. I never get all my work done because there's always more work that could be done. I could be reading more books, I could be writing more posts, I could be making more videos, I could be talking to more people. More. There is always more to do. This is the nature of knowledge work. Knowledge work never finishes. Have you ever got to the bottom of your email list with 0 things to do? In comparison to factory work, when you're done for the day, you can turn off the machine. But with knowledge work, that brain of yours doesn't have a switch. You can't just turn it off. Plus, there's another problem. It's this, and it's this. With laptop, mobile phone, and internet access, I can work from anywhere on the planet. And this creates an even bigger problem. Now our work never ends, we can't switch off our brains, and we can work from anywhere. What do you think is the net result of this? Spot on. It feels like we're always working. But wait, it gets worse. When we stop working, we click over to social media for a little bit of light entertainment. Except the problem there is our brain doesn't know the difference between social media and work. And if you think about it quite literally, you're still sitting down at that same desk, you're still tapping on your keyboard, you're still reading things online. How is that different to the work you normally do? The problem is when we think we're switching off, we're not. We're no longer doing 8 hours of work, rest and play. It's more like now we're open 24 hours a day. So what's the solution? How do we solve this conundrum of work-life balance? I think the real issue here is that people have the wrong impression about what balance actually means. Let me ask you, what is balance? How you define what balance is will determine whether you have it in your work and your life. Most people think of balance as a set of scales. You put a weight on one side and something else on the other side, and you try to have them be equal. But if you try to have work-life balance in this same way, you'll fail. You will be constantly chasing a mirage. As soon as you get things equal and level and balanced, they'll move. While scales is not a great metaphor for balance, the good news is I have 3 other metaphors that could work for you. Yoga done well is a beautiful thing to watch and even better to practice. It's strong, elegant and majestic. The goal here is to practice and perfect the perfect form. The principle is static balance. You are trying to get things in perfect alignment and then hold them there.
I'll be honest with you, for people that work from home or people that have their own business that they're doing on the side, there's almost a gray area in between. And you just have to have the flexibility and don't be too strict on yourself, because we don't live in a perfect world.
The goal is not to try to live a perfect day. Instead, the yoga metaphor for balance is about being balanced in the moment. As soon as you find yourself out of balance, stressed, harried in any sort of way, you can stop and take a yoga moment. Take a breath and establish a perfect pose. Let's do that now. Close the eyes, deep breath in, slow release out. Perfect. That's a moment of work-life balance.
I often had issues with that term, because work-life balance sounded very strict, like you have to have a work and a life, 2 very black and white components. And
when we look at the world as a set of scales, we're trying to have balance as a static black and white thing. While a seesaw might look like a gigantic set of scales, the principle behind how you use it is completely different. With scales, you're looking for static balance to make both sides equal. But on a seesaw, the idea is that you've got unequal loads on either end and you're moving constantly back and forth, up and down. Balance is moving. And it all depends on how much load is on each end. And by changing the load on each end, we can change the movement to be in balance, to adjust to be in balance, to move through balance, to move through unbalance. But when you're on a seesaw, there is movement, interaction, and adjustment. Most of the time in our work and life, balance is off. We constantly need to adjust and tweak and change and adjust what we're doing to adjust that level of balance. We're going from one to the other. The seesaw metaphor acknowledges this and says, I'm off balance. Let's adjust a little. It's a constant readjustment to our situation and our surroundings. Plus, the seesaw metaphor acknowledges that we're sitting on one end and something else is knocking us off balance. It might be ourselves, an internal thought we're having about a deadline we have to meet, or about some job in the future that might be worrying us. It might be a thought about somebody else, that I'm trying to please my boss, or I need to be home in time to get the dinner ready for my kids. Or it might be about a thing. Oh my God, that bandwidth on the internet, that is so slow and crappy today. When we can identify the specific thing on the other side of the seesaw that's knocking us off balance, we can do something about it. We can choose how we want to respond. We can choose how to adjust. And best of all, it's remembering that a seesaw is typically a tool for children to play in the playground. Approaching our work-life balance like that might be the best tip of all.
I think the biggest thing out of what we've been talking about as far as this work-life balance thing goes is be authentic to you. Like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. If it works for you, great. If it's not you, be yourself. So just try to be authentic and put a schedule that works for yourself. If it's not working, see where you can make little tweaks and just constantly refine it. Be open to change.
Do you remember what it was like to ride a bicycle for the first time? I do, and I have the scars to prove it. Riding a bicycle is our third metaphor for work-life balance. It's all about staying in balance as we move from one place to another. Yoga is about perfect balance in one moment and in one place. A seesaw goes up and down on the spot. It's about adjusting in a two-dimensional plane. But riding a bicycle is four-dimensional. Not only are we riding through three-dimensional space, but we also have the time element of our speed and the duration for which we're riding the bike. We can ride fast, we can ride slow, we can ride up hills, we can ride into the wind, we can ride downhill really quickly, and we can ride around corners or in straight lines. More importantly, we can ride for minutes or hours. The trick about riding and balancing on a bicycle is to manage your energy and your effort. When you travel in a car, there's not a lot of physical effort to get from A to B. But on a bicycle, if we ride too fast, we become tired. If we ride too slow, we might fall off. If we ride into the wind, it'll take more effort. And if we ride on the gravel, it might be slippery. Plus, we can stop at any time and have a rest. This is a great metaphor for work-life balance for your entire career. It's all about riding at the right speed, in the right direction, on the right terrain with the right amount of effort. Where are you riding to today? Work-life balance. Let's wrap up what we've covered here. Work-life balance is not about working more or less. It's about being able to switch on and off as you need to. It's also about your definition of balance. Yoga balance is perfect for being in the moment. And you can do this at any time throughout your day. Seesaw balance is perfect for adjusting your balance. Notice what is knocking you off balance and adjust. And cycling balance is perfect for the longer journey. It requires you to pay attention to where you're going and the amount of energy and effort you're putting into it. If you'd like more videos like this one, hit the like button down below and let me know. Remember, work-life balance may be part of your journey, but it's not your destination. Now get on your bike and start riding.